Good morning. Welcome to our council meeting for Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. I'd like to welcome everyone today and call this meeting to order. Before we move along, just a reminder that Councillor Persicini and Councillor Morton are both away with notice. We have no declaration of interest at this time, and I will move to our land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the first peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nation and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. I have a couple of community announcements. Summer continues to be very busy with events since our last meeting. On behalf of Council and the Youth and Community Initiative Fund, I presented a bursary to 3 East Gwillimbury graduating students. One from each of Dr. Denison High School, Huron Heights High School, and Sacred Heart Catholic School. Congratulations to the graduates. They certainly were very proud, and we're very proud of them. On July the 1st, we celebrated Canada Day with our community. The events were really well attended, and it was so nice to connect with our residents once again. Everyone enjoyed the activities and, of course, the firework display. Our thank you to our sponsors, staff, and volunteers for all the work to bring this to our community. And this evening at 5 p.m., we will be celebrating the official opening of the Children of Peace Park and the Trail Connection. The park is a beautiful space. The landscaping and the flowers done by our staff are stunning. Please plan to join us at 5 p.m. or take the opportunity to visit this wonderful park and space. Following the park opening, beginning at 6:30, we will be having our music night in the park, featuring the band From the Hip. Hope to see you all there. I was there last week, and it was very enjoyable, lots of fun. Are there any members of council that might have some announcements? Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to note that our Arts and Culture Advisory Committee has been very busy. Last week they programmed a celebration of the arts in conjunction with our farmers market, and they had ballet classes and jugglers and musicians and art and all sorts of fun stuff, and I wanted to commend their efforts for that. As well, the members of council will note that in their inboxes there was an email that came from our staff regarding the public outreach for art in Children of Peace Park. So there's a spot that's been reserved, and we're doing some public outreach. The voting process is very simple. There was several submissions, and the committee narrowed it down to 2 very, very different but very interesting pieces, and they're looking for community input. So I encourage everyone to go on and vote for which art you would like to see in that space. And also wanted to do a quick shout out for our Public Library Board. They're hosting a pop-up book sale this Thursday at the Farmers Market. It is cash only, but they're sort of seeding the market for their upcoming fall sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council with announcements? Not seeing at this time. However, if you come across something before our meeting concludes, please give me the high sign. We are now at item E, and that is a deputation with M. DiGiuseppe, President, Thornridge Homes Limited, and G. Bensky, President of Wycliffe Homes, making a deputation to Council regarding item 1.4, Development Services Planning Branch Memo, removal of holding symbol for Sharon Corners. Welcome. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Good to be here. Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As stated, I'm Gary Bensky from Wycliffe Homes. I'm here with Marlene DiGiuseppe, and we wish to speak to item 2 on development services regarding the removal of the hold bylaw. I'm told by professionals that I might be more than 5 minutes. You'll all be thrilled that I wrote it down. I'm going to try and stick to the program. So I will start. Imagine if Wycliffe Homes had not bought the 7 homes along Mount Albert Road. Wycliffe Thornridge made this business decision to purchase these lands, not knowing how the YDSS, Upper York, or any other processes were going to play out. Council made a decision to proceed with development in East Gwillimbury that would be serviced by the YDSS improvements, including roads, sewers, and provided the opportunity for nearly 1,500 homes to be built in Sharon alone and nearly 5,000 units over all of East Gwillimbury. Of course, the delay of the Upper York sewer became an impediment, but all in all, it was a good decision. 1,500 homes in Sharon would be built, 2 schools would be built, parks and trails would be built, and transportation would benefit from that decision. Wycliffe Thornridge, Sharon Corners, was faced with making a business decision in the absence of allocation, albeit but for a few units in our master plan. Can I have the first slide, please? Or the next slide? Ooh, back. That's it, thank you. This is our comprehensive master plan. It comprises 203 suites of a seniors residence operated by Rivera that will be ready for occupancy in late spring of 2023, 86 unique and special purpose townhomes along with a 7-story 100-suite residential building. The intent was that the community would provide a continuum of care where seniors were able to age within their community and juniors would be able to bring their seniors to their new vibrant community. This was the theme of our comprehensive Sharon Corners Community Master Plan that would provide an opportunity for different housing needs that currently do not exist in Sharon. The option for seniors to stay within the community. Next slide, please. As we said, this slide represents those units which we have existing zoning for within the bylaw, but they have been retained by Wycliffe. They have allocation. There are about 25 units that we have always had, and those are the ones shown in blue within the Sharon Corners community. Next slide, please. I think somewhere I said that's what this will look like in the fall, but I guess it has to be built and sold first. So this is what Sharon Corners community will look like upon completion of the Sharon Inline Storage Solution, the subject of a tri-party agreement, which, as you know, is an agreement where the region has allowed the Sharon Landowners Group to implement a made in Sharon engineering solution for the provision of additional allocation. This tri-party agreement between the town, the region, and Sharon developers is scheduled for implementation this fall and will allow us to complete our much anticipated urban towns, which are a unique product geared to our vision of the master plan. These units, as you may know, are essentially 2-bedroom, single living spaces, accessible by an elevator and from a private garage with a private driveway. The H removal will allow us to get the major infrastructure and road network connectivity built during this summer construction season, 2022, such that the majority of the works will be in the ground prior to the additional allocation release provided by the Sharon West Landowners Group interim solution. I would like to point out that we will have 15 units which do not currently have allocation at the conclusion of everything there. The green units, which I will speak to in a minute, are those that will not have allocation. Sorry, I stopped reading. Those units, however, are fire break lots and would not be able to be built until the surrounding units had been completed, every brick and every piece of aluminum. The chief has good staff They actually come and look. We say the brick's on, they say not quite. Depicts the community build-out potentially as it will exist this fall. Of course, we have to sell them and build them. But the blue is the community as it can now be completed, with the exception of a few units. We will, of course, return to council to remove the H provision from those additional units as they become available through the tri-party agreement. The business decision that we made was that will there be 15 units from the town reserves, from additional capacity in the Sharon inline storage? Will there be unused allocation within the Sharon Developers Group? And of course, ultimately, the allocation will come from the Upper York sewage system or some other such facility. Emphasis on other such facility. Wonders never cease. We believe this looks pretty good, and the services that the Sharon Corners and Revere community is a very comprehensive community with little future disruption to the existing community, most particularly the future 203 residences of the Rivera home. Next slide, please. There are 2 slides. These are the benefits that completion, this was the decision, that there were benefits to the Rivera building, there were benefits to the community, and there were benefits to transportation, albeit a few units have not yet got allocation. The community will benefit from the construction of a multi-use path, which is a 3-meter wide pathway along the entire frontage of Sharon Corners and beyond to the intersection of Leslie Street. Additionally, we will provide AODA upgrades as requested by the Region of York to the existing traffic lights at Leslie Street for safe passage of all pedestrians. In addition, we will install a new public sidewalk north up to our Leslie Street entrance at Illumination Way. Next slide, please. The transportation benefits are probably more to the point of our decision. We will complete the intersection of Mount Albert. We will complete the intersection of Leslie Street, and we will have a single street paved and connecting the community. More importantly, this will eliminate the need for the approved interim access to the Rivera residences. We feel this is unquestionably a benefit, will unquestionably benefit the intersection and the Sharon Corners community. Can you go back to slide 2, just the overall? Before I ask you if there are any questions, I'm going to answer 2 questions that always come up. There are 2 points that we want to make. The first question is, it always comes up, why didn't we ask for the allocation from the region when they were considering our inline storage solution? The simple answer is that we didn't want to impede that process of our partners in the development group. This is our decision. These are our lands. In as much as we're involved in the group, we did not want to impede that process, which serves us well. We're going to get the storage solution, and we're going to get some hundreds of units very shortly, this fall, in fact. The second thing is, why did we not choose to complete the future residential lands in our original phase? And I want to point out that the future residential land sits on 2 flankages on single loaded roads. It is on the open space, and it has an internal road network. In fact, grades are such that we will likely not be going external to the site, but for, I presume, major servicing. So on that note, that's why we didn't, and with the regional allocation, I'll leave that to everybody here. We're close. So thank you for your time, and if there are any other questions, Marlene and I will answer them if we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of our deputant? No, we're going to move this to the report, so perhaps the questions will be left until that point.
Thank you.
Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much. And we will move along to our second deputant today, and it's Kay Kelly, partner, senior planner at Groundswell Urban Planners, and R. Aubry, architect, vice president, design, development, and construction at Redwood Properties, making a deputation regarding Redwood Properties Young and Green Lane Development Master Plan. And do we have Kay Kelly with us this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of council. My name is Kerrigan Kelly, and I'm one of the partners of Groundswell Urban Planners. I'm joined by Richard Aubry of Redwood Properties. He'll be taking you through the balance of the presentation and the details of our proposal. We've been before you a number of times, so I won't take too much of your time. Instead, I'm going to focus directly on our community design plan application. We submitted this application back in January, and that was to enable us to continue to work with the town towards a recommendation for support. And this support is essential for Redwood to continue their conversations both with the region of York as well as with the province. We recognize that the CDP application still requires additional information and additional study, and that the size and the scale of the proposed new community as a whole has been rather daunting to consider. With that, staff recognize this, and we've been working with them to determine the most effective way to review this application. So we focused on phasing and implementation approaches that allow us to consider it in more bite-sized and manageable way. We've identified the first phase. It's generally the northeasterly portion of Redwood's lands. This initial phase is approximately 467 residential units. They range in size. We've estimated some initial population numbers around 1157, but again, those are preliminary numbers at this stage. This was determined to make the most sense as the private servicing and stormwater management pond can be constructed to support this phase and future phases. With respect to the private servicing solution that we require, this is an opportunity for Redwood to continue pursuing modern solutions for the servicing constraints that affect our entire town. And it's an opportunity for East Gwillimbury to continue to position yourselves as leaders in modern environmental solutions. So in conclusion, our ask is for council's support in principle of our community design plan. I'll now ask Richard Aubry of Redwood Properties to take you through the balance of the presentation, and we'll both be pleased to answer any questions at the end of his deputation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kerrigan, Mayor, Council, and staff. Can everybody hear me clearly? If not, all right, very good. So I'll continue. This is a presentation. The first part of it, everybody here has seen before, probably more than once, so I won't belabor the issues. It'll be more of just a reminder. And just to carry on from what Kerrigan was outlining, our intention here is to identify the first phase, the first steps, and our next steps with working with the town, the region, and the province to see this vision come to life. So on that note, I'll probably breeze through the first few slides quite quickly. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. You have seen these before, but the last ones will be the more important ones. So if we can just go to the next slide, please. So just a reminder of the location along Yonge Street, just north of Green Lane, about 150-acre site. In total, some of it's in the White Belt, most of it's in the Yonge Green Lane secondary plan, and we're focusing on the Yonge Street frontage and about mid-block through inside. Next slide, please. If you all recall, this is a master planned community village, multi-use, sustainable village centered on the quality of life, health and wellness, and economic opportunities and sustainability, integrating all sorts of systems and design concepts into a very ambitious, high quality public realm placemaking excellence community of about 3,000 units. Next slide, please. This was part of our submission in January for the community design plan for the area as a whole. The red dashed line outlines the area that we are focusing on within this community design plan. It's broken down into its individual component parts. If you will recall, some of that center part was the kind of a home, I refer to as center ice, the main public gathering spaces and food court, farmers market, and food pavilion, and so on. But what we'll be doing is focusing on our first phases, block 15, 12, and 4, which is kind of on the eastern side, or kind of in the middle of that block there. I don't have a cursor, but you can see that there's 3 blocks there. So if we go to the next slide, it kind of focuses on, excuse me, where our first phase is here. So there you go. So the kind of highlighted area is the area that is going to formulate our first phase of the community design plan and any subsequent submissions. This will be done not in isolation, it will be done in a larger context with the overall master plan, but we'll be zeroing in on this phase here. The roadway on the south side, just on the bottom of the page there, exists with the signalized intersection onto Yonge Street. So that'll be our primary access, and we'll bring people up into that northern, more eastern boundary of our quadrant that we're focusing on most of the density in the village is. And that consists of 3 subphases and a scalable water feature, which will act as part of the engineering system. We're designing the engineering system both in stormwater and sanitary to be scaled up into as we go. So it's not going to be, a once and done. It'll be phased, appropriately sized for the development that's going to be happening at each phase. So we're going to focus in on this little block here in the next slide, and you'll see a bit of what we're talking about here. So it consists of 3 elemental parts. The first one is townhouses, going to walk up townhouses, about 75 units. These will be larger units with a central courtyard over top of a parking structure. The second area will be a mid-rise building of about 9 stories and about 220 units, a little bit more condominium type arrangement in terms of size, typology, and arrangement. And then the third phase, or the third section, is a similar type building, but about 7 stories and about 170 units. So in total, we're looking at under 500 units, under about 475,000 square feet of development, with about a little under 600 parking spaces in total, and that'll formulate our first phase overall. And if you go to the next slide, what we're also utilizing this first phase for is to test a lot of the theories and concepts that our larger master plan is contemplating. So everything from the pedestrian and public interface experience, retail, the engineering, sustainability, the different types of living options in terms of size and ownership are all going to play a role in this first phase, which will be a bit of a microcosm for the overall larger scale development. So you can see the next couple slides show very preliminary renderings of what the aerial shots will look like. So here's a shot looking from the east, looking toward Yonge Street. So you can see the townhouses with their mews on parking garage, and then the 2 mid-rise buildings formulating a very dynamic and interesting architecture and urban design realm to create a very strong street presence. This will be more residential in nature. As it moves toward Yonge Street from the previous master plan, you'll see it becomes more public realm, more commercial in nature, although this does have some small commercial integrated into the ground floor plan. Next slide, please. So here, looking from the south, the 2 mid-rise buildings, looking over top, the topography on this area of the site is quite interesting. So we're trying to work with it and make it part of the overall experience and inform the built form of the master plan. Next slide. And this is just looking into one of the streets that's looking directly west. So in between the townhouses and that 7-story mid-rise building. Next slide. And this is more of an internal view from the south looking toward the northeast. So you can see the different buildings that were, because of the topography, they can have the ground plane become part of the pedestrian route, the pathways to go underneath buildings to open space and then back into between buildings to create a really interesting public and pedestrian experience and very exciting buildings. Next slide. More internal into one of the courtyards, showing how the topography, this would be more where the commercial aspects are. Onto the left-hand side of the screen, there could be, there's going to be a restaurant of some sort, maybe a daycare, and some topography utilized landscaping and steps and access points to really make this a dynamic, fun site. Next slide, please. And a reminder of how we're moving toward a completely integrated, large-scale development. So this would be one first step, and our goal here is also to learn as we move forward, so that the lessons that we learned from the first phase will be applied to the subsequent phases as we move forward. This is a very large development. It will have to be implemented in manageable phases, both from cost and implementation, but also marketing demand. Putting 3,000 units in the market immediately would be unadvisable, obviously. So we'll learn as we go, and we'll adjust as we go to improve our approach through the different phases. Next slide, please. Looking at all sorts of different opportunities for infrastructure that are sustainable, from a pneumatic waste collection system, so centralizing a lot of the waste collection so you can eliminate a lot of the big, noisy, intrusive garbage collection zones and vehicles. I think at this point, everybody's quite familiar with the sanitary and wastewater treatment approach that we are taking in the new Terra technology. Stormwater management and reuse, not just in landscape irrigation on private, but also in more public zones and building systems. And we're also looking at geothermal as well as a heat source for the development. Next slide. And we're looking at any other opportunity that comes our way. So a rough timeline of where we are and where we plan to go in the next steps. So the draft regional official plan is a little bit behind us now, which is good. After this meeting, we are arranging a pre-consultation meeting with staff so we can determine the exact scale, scope, and approach for all the following development applications and reports and information that's going to support those applications. So we're hoping to submit those as soon as possible in this year, depending on the scale and scope. And then we'll continue with community engagement and consultation, and continue our implementation through further applications through severance, rezoning, site plan, building permit, and so on. So this is a critical step to move forward to determine the exact scope and nature of our applications that are coming up in the next little while. And I believe that's everything. Oh, one summary of so this is the overall. So if we look at just the two areas, 12 and 15, that we're looking at, 4 doesn't have anything to speak of any meaningful density or typology, but because it's more of a support element. But the residential on 15 and 12 is what we're looking at right now. So it fits into the larger puzzle piece. And that concludes our presentation. If there's any questions, I know this is going to be carried over to another meeting. So be happy to answer anything if you have anything now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, and also Mr. Aubry. Very interesting, very exciting. Are there any questions from members of council? Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I really appreciate the presentation, and I'm very excited about this development. There's so many good aspects to it: the complete community, the servicing on site, the variety of housing options. I just wanted to confirm that I remember there was purpose-built rental, but I believe that would be in block like 158. Is that what I'm looking at? I just wanted to confirm that there's still purpose-built rentals included in the overall plan.
Yes, to the chair, absolutely, Councillor. That is actually going to be a majority of what we're looking at. There will be a mix, of course, because the demand will be there for all sorts of types of rental and ownership. But absolutely, the core of our business is more on the purpose-built rental side. So that will absolutely be incorporated into the key components of this development.
Excellent. The one question I had about where the future development is, I'm looking at those natural heritage systems, and it's really important that we connect up those natural heritage systems. And I know it's not part of the first phase in this plan, but I know sometimes when plans stick around for a while, we assume that all the future development is what council's looking for as well. But I just want to make sure that both to the north, there's a area of future development there. The natural heritage system just kind of cuts off at that road. I'm sure that there's probably a buffer around it, as there is with all the rest of the natural heritage system. And so once you get that buffer around it, it's going to connect up very closely to the other natural heritage system. So when we're looking at the plan in the fullness of time, I would love to see that connected up. Same with to the south through that future development to connect up those two natural heritage systems. I know they all connect up further to the east, but the small animals and turtles and frogs and that aren't going all the way around. They will walk across that road, and we want to try and eliminate that as much as possible. We have the school site in there, maybe that can be part of the connection, but I just hope when we look at those two future development areas, we can look at some sort of connection with our natural heritage site. So that's just a comment for the future. With the phases that you're looking at right now, I'm looking at the parking, and the parking is significantly less than what is required. I know in the fullness of time, there's going to be a lot of services there that people can walk to, but initially, I would think that most of these units are going to have 2 cars, since there's not a lot of transportation in this area, and we still live in a car-dependent society here, so we're short 82 parking spaces, and I'm just wondering what the thought was. Maybe it's more of a question for staff that can be saved for the staff report, but there is 82 less parking spaces than what is required, and I just don't know where all those cars are going to go.
Did you want to
Well, maybe
answer that?
I can respond to this. So this is very preliminary numbers. We're obviously going to be working with staff to make sure that the appropriate number of parking spaces is provided within the plan. So because we're so early, we want to ensure that we're having those conversations with them, both market demand as well as municipal standards demand. Parking is not going to be an issue on a site of this size, rather. So we'll make the appropriate numbers work. And yes, you're right. Especially with us, our experience with purpose-built rentals is that parking in these communities is a critical transition for many empty nesters as well, as they move from a single-family home to more of an apartment-type lifestyle. They usually bring a second car with them, and then they shed that over time. But the initial first transitional steps do demand a higher level of parking. So we want to make sure our long-term clientele and residents are adequately served with parking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to our presenters. Your presentation has an expression, an activated community, and I was curious to understand a little bit more. That was a new term for me, and I was curious to know a little bit more about what that meant. Please and thank you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, I'm not trying to intend that to be a fluffy term, but really what an activated community means is I see it as 2 things. One, it's a connected community with each other and the environment and the urban and naturalized environment that surrounds, that is not in its own context. It's creating a context and connecting to further context surrounding it. Also, it means activated means that if you have the community with the proper ingredients, it takes on a life of its own. It creates its own culture, and things like farmers markets and activities and outdoor recreational and or spiritual or community type events can happen that would not necessarily be organized by community groups. It could be self-organized. So when you say activated community, it means a lot of different, but that's where we feel it kind of comes from. It's not an official term. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Mr. Aubry. Through you, Madam Mayor, I know this was discussed when we first had this come to us, and through you, obviously this is a very ambitious and exciting proposal. One of the things that I was struck by was the fact that at the time it conformed to our official plan, and I'm just confirming, I will obviously make sure that I confirm this with our own staff, but at this point you're not seeking to amend our official plan, that this proposal actually adheres to the provisions of our official plan. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll respond to that question. Yes, we are not seeking to amend your official plan. At this time, we are only seeking to work through the community design plan application process, and we have no intention of amending any policy documents at this stage, no.
That's very refreshing to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions from members of council? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to tackle the parking issue, but Councillor Carruthers did that rather well. But I would like to maybe seek some clarification, hopefully from maybe some staff or some of my fellow councillors here. We're being asked to support in principle this development that is going to be looked after by a private servicing system. We have taken an interest in those private servicing systems for this development and some other problems that we have in town, hopefully, that we can fix. We've sent some correspondence off to the region, and I don't think at this point we've heard anything from the region regarding these types of systems. I don't think we've heard anything from the province regarding these kinds of systems. So to make it simple, I'm wondering if we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here by supporting this in principle. I'm not against it. I'm just wondering if anybody can clarify that a bit and sell me on that one. Mr. Webster, I see hopefully you have some good information for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
I'll do my best, Madam Mayor. This is the second time we've seen this presentation, as Mr. Aubry made a fulsome presentation earlier this year, I believe, or late last year. Council has endorsed the new Terra membrane technology, and the resolution instructed staff to meet with the Upper York Provincial Sewage Expert Panel, and we did. We went and met with them. We put the technology on the table. We indicated our council was very interested in it, that we would still want to get the larger municipal servicing solution approved, but as an interim solution primarily focused on the lagoon decommissioning. And this council has had that, and others have as well. We left that with the panel. They listened, and they're bringing it on to the province, we understand. I think the timing is in the September timeframe. As far as the region initially was not open to these types of systems, but given the delays in the full municipal sewage system, the discussions at the chair level and at the senior staff level have been very positive with York Region. So this group today is looking for endorsement in principle for the phase one and the overall development. We, as a staff team, what we've done is, rather than be presumptuous and put the report on this council, we've done it for the Thursday session. So it allows a couple days of reflection. I will say this, however, we met with the development industry as a larger group, and they are interested in this as well. We're getting the Me Too's as well. And we can't have 27 of these plants popping up over the community. I don't think that would be healthy. The real differentiator here is that this group wants this to be a long-term sustainable solution. They're not looking at municipal servicing. They're looking at making this somewhat like a battery park system in New York, where it stands alone and it exists for many years without the need for municipal servicing. We're still going to deal with our development group, and we may be looking at a few of these plants that might be able to be used on an interim basis until we get the full municipal solution. So I hope that's helpful. As I said, we do have a full report on this that's tabled for the evening session on the 21st, and the staff will be able to answer more questions at that time.
Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. Thank you to Ms. Kelly and Mr. Aubry. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor, and that's carried. And as Mr. Webster has indicated, we look forward to meeting with you on Thursday of this week as we dig a little deeper into the issues with this report. So thank you very much. I will move along. I did move the... Thank you. We have presentations at this point, and we have none that I'm aware of. We're now down to adoption of minutes, and we have the minutes that were held on June 21st. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item H for administration, and Mr. Webster, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our staff team and our council has been further acknowledged with through our modernization efforts, and it's something that we're increasingly getting attention across the province. And at the latest AMCTO award, we were acknowledged, and I would like just to read out. The EA Danby Award is given out annually by AMCTO to acknowledge a municipality's dedication to public service excellence and for introducing innovative ways of delivering service to their community. I want to make sure that this is our staff team that has done this. We've had a modernization group. Our deputy, Mark Velchich, and Scott McNeil, amongst many others, have led this up. And this meeting is a perfect example. We used existing technology. We've moved our council meetings to full hybrid mode. It's good to see Mr. Sanderson here in person today, as we got used to him over the years. And we are using the tools that we had in place in a very effective way. And again, I'd like to, Tara Lejavarde, our municipal clerk, has also played a lead role in a lot of these initiatives. So we're very happy to receive the award. I further understand that Scott McNeil, who's our Director of Information and Business Technology Transformation, has further been requested to write an article for Municipal World. And so we're increasingly becoming talked about as EG, a very innovative and town that's putting best business practices forward. I don't know if Deputy Velchich, who's virtual today, has anything to add, but we're proud. And I believe, Madam Mayor, you have the award right there if we wanted to show it to,
I will.
To the viewing public.
I'll see if Mr. Velchik has any comments at this point.
Nothing further to add, just, really pleased that we've been able to accomplish so much for East Gwillimbury, for its residents, for its businesses and stakeholders. And we've got lots of good work still ahead of us to do. So I think the program is serving us well. And, as I say, there's still a number of opportunities ahead that we look forward to.
Thank you very much. And thank you to staff. I have the plaque here in front of me. I don't know if people can see it, but I'm going to read it in a moment. It is from AMCTO, Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, presents the 2022 EA Danby Certificate of Merit in recognition of outstanding achievement in the category Municipal Administration by the municipality with a population of 20,000 or more. To the town of East Gwillimbury for Municipal Peak Performance Program, a culture of service, delivery, innovation. The EA Danby Award recognizes and honors municipalities that have demonstrated outstanding achievement through their innovation with respect to municipal management activities or practices implemented for the purpose of delivering improved municipal programs and services. And it's signed by Sandra M. McDonald on behalf of the 21-22 Board of Directors. On behalf of all of council, we thank staff for the innovation that they have provided, and we're very pleased to accept this on behalf. Thank you very much. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much. I see no other items under administration, and I will move to development services. Item I. And we have a couple of items on this, and I'm going to turn it over to General Manager Cooper.
Morning, Madam Mayor, members of council. The first item is the appointment of the bylaw for 2 municipal law enforcement officers. These positions are to fill an existing vacant FTE positions. The 2 recruitments will start in the beginning of August. Thank you.
Any questions on this item? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Foster, Councillor Crone, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Item number 2, go ahead, please.
Second item from Development Services is a part lot control to subdivide the development block into actual conveyable parts as identified in the memo report. And no additional units are being requested here. I just want to provide council with a quick update that Averton has issued an invitation for an on-site commencement of construction for the mixed-use building for next Tuesday on July 26th at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? I have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Just on that matter.
On that matter, I did have a conversation with Councillor Roy DiClemente just yesterday afternoon, and she was inquiring as to when they were going to start the non-residential building. So I think they hit the send button right after that. It was just coincidental. I just want to make sure folks are aware. And as we move to the next item, I just wanted to introduce that,
Please.
Madam Mayor. So is that appropriate?
Yes, thank you.
So this is further to today's deputation by the group Sharon Corners and Wycliffe Thornridge, which has been before council many times. So firstly, there's a typographical error in the staff report. That's an important one. And so I believe the clerk has issued a new report. There was a header that said there is sufficient capacity to complete this community. And it was missing the words, there currently is not sufficient capacity. So that's a very key point. You know, dealing with this, I missed last meeting, but staff have prepared something. We have to deal with the full facts here. And people have asked over the years, what are the impacts of the Upper York delay? And, you know, where are we seeing the pain? Well, the impacts are, if we didn't have this innovative inline storage proposal, what we're looking at right now in Sharon is what we would have. We'd have basically everything to the west side of Morel would still be vacant, and we'd be looking at dust fields for quite a while. And we'd also be looking at this quadrant being very short of allocation. The inline storage capacity, just to put it in layman's terms, takes the very large regional sewer that all of this drains into, and it puts a gating system in. And what the gating system does is it controls flows, and so it allows for really the balance of the Sharon community to be built. The Sharon group is putting $3 million towards this without any cost recovery, so they're solving the issue themselves. Unfortunately, when they put their initial request in for the units that they needed, Mr. Bensky referred to it today, they put a number in that was too low. And this quadrant is part of the shortage. This quadrant, and I call it the quadrant, the northwest quadrant, is not 17 units short at this time. It's 70 units short. It's the 2 blocks across from the retirement home to the north of the retirement home, which are 17 equivalent units, and it's the 53 units that they hold on Countryman. So I just want council to be fully aware that there are 70 units short at this time. We're really hopeful, as this inline storage proposal comes along, that there's going to be positive news and in a short manner, and that we can solve that and get these 70 units built, not just the 2 blocks. It's not healthy to have, you know, it's convenient that they're fire break lots right now, but at the end of the day, you want to have complete streets, and we want to have this entire quadrant built. As well, we still hold 1,000 units, and I remind council that, in a reserve. And the direction council has provided at this time is until we get a full solution from the province and we get certainty on the lagoon decommissioning, we're going to hold those in abeyance. And so that is the best I can do. I think the staff report tries to paraphrase what Mr. Bensky said. And the only other matter I'll raise, Madam Mayor, is something we talked about yesterday as well, was the crosswalk and the needed pedestrian crossing. So there's a number of elements that can be addressed, but there is a modified report, and maybe staff can now speak to and answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Staff, go ahead, please.
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor, I won't provide much more intro than what Tom has already indicated, but I guess what I would provide is just an overview of the report, which indicates that staff do recommend the lifting of the H for four main reasons. And one of them is the original YDSS agreement does allow for these lots to be lifted. They were applied to these properties as part of the original YDSS. It's shown on one of the first schedules of the report. And secondly, the servicing allocation is coming within a reasonable time frame, as outlined in the table. And three, there is less impact to the existing community, in the staff's opinion, to continue the construction at this corner. And four, there's additional community benefits as listed in the report itself. So we're here to answer any questions here, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm not seeing any questions at this time. Mr. Webster?
Madam Mayor, with regards to the crosswalk, we do have an update. And I know that you've been talking to the chairman quite a bit. I've talked to Bruce McGregor, the CAO, as well, and he's fully aware that as you start having retirement homes built and functioning, we've got to get better pedestrian crossings and access and safer. Joseph Petroangaro has followed up with Mike Molinari's group, and Joseph called me this morning, and he knew this report was coming forward. He's indicated to me that it still doesn't meet the warrants, unfortunately. And there is a process, though, that he suggested could help expedite the delivery of that crosswalk. He suggested that you would bring to Committee of Region, so the Transportation Committee, I think it's called Public Works Committee, as the regional representative, a motion to ask the region to construct that crosswalk expeditiously, and that the East Gwillimbury Development Community would pay for this sidewalk in its or the crosswalk in its entirety. And he said by doing that, if we tabled a resolution as an option and it went to council, it won't get dealt with this term, because September is their last meetings. And he said if we go to committee and committee endorses it to council, he feels that if it's being fully committed to being paid for, and I understand that this group is prepared to pay for their share and our share now. At one point it was 50-50. That's one of the things that they've indicated in our recent discussions. And so we do have an additional recommendation for this report that would ask for direction to yourself, Madam Mayor, as our representative, to bring it forward to regional committee at the September cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. I have had discussions as well, as you know, and believe that it would be successful at this time. Questions from members of council? Councilor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
I guess I'll start with the crosswalk, and that was, I think we've had that conversation where I believe I was rendered speechless when it wasn't warranted. The reality is that if it's not safe to cross the road, then you're not going to ever meet warrants, because it's never going to be safe enough to do so. And the more people that we introduce to this quadrant, the more important this crosswalk becomes. I'm happy to support or put forward any resolution that makes this a reality. It's an important need for our community. I guess secondly, with respect to the lifting of the H symbol, I don't see a compelling reason to lift it at this time. And that's simply because While I acknowledge that there are significant community benefits from finishing this quadrant, and there's a delivery of a variety of housing types that we need and want, which is why I supported the application on its way through the process, the reality is that it can't be finished. And we've seen, we acted in good faith when Sharon Village was put forward, and we lifted H symbols because servicing was imminent. And we've now fast-forwarded to almost a decade of dust and weeds and a community that is incomplete. And quite frankly, I have trust issues, and it's nothing to do with the applicant. It's unfortunate that they're one of the first that are running up against this brick wall. But if the applicant can find and confirm 15 units or whatever number it is that will get this done and over with, I'm happy to support the lifting of the H. But at this time, I don't wish to perpetuate the issue that we've already seen take place in our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I, I've had some good conversations this morning with staff and some conversations over the weekend with some councillors. And I support what Councillor Roy DiClemente just brought forward. I think it's dangerous for us to, I guess, lift the holding while there is not sufficient servicing available, and I hate to see where that may take us in the future. Again, I'm looking for some guidance here. Does this set a precedent? And I'm kind of hoping it doesn't, but I'm not sure the right way to move forward here. Again, I have no issues with the developer and what they want to do, but I think we need to get to a point where we're approving developments that have the servicing to complete. And I'm not sure that if we're going the right way here. I don't know if I put that right, but I have some doubts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm trying to assist General Manager Cuck here because this is a difficult situation we're in. And, one thing I just want to reflect on is no other municipality in York Region has to do this. We're in the crosshairs of counting units by, dribs and drabs. The Averton community, for example, it has a block of townhouses that it can't service at this time. We have this across Hall Landing. We've asked the communities to come together and so we can come back to council with the full shortage, because this quadrant's 70 short, but we have shortages in Hall Landing where we have this situation as well, and in Mount Albert. To get to your point specifically, I want to, and I went through this with General Manager Cuck and Adam Robb just recently. I want to make it clear, the H is being lifted only on the units that we have capacity for. The two blocks that comprise 17 units on the street, I guess, which is now Illumination Way, and the 53 units that are being held on Countryman still have an H on them. And that is typical. The H is there to protect the consumer, really. And what the region doesn't want to have happen is for these units to be sold and for servicing and to not be available, and people could not close their homes. So staff will still have to report back on the 17 units, the two blocks on Illumination Way and on the Countryman Way block once servicing is available. So I just want to make it clear that that's how the process would work. We do not have capacity for the 70 at this time, but we're hopeful in the very near future we'll be able to report back, get the two blocks built that would allow the Illumination Way to be fully built and for the Countryman Way development to be fully built as well. So that's my layman's answer from discussing it with General Manager Cuck and Director Robb last evening.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Mr. Cook, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to add a little bit more to that is this, I guess with regards to timing is what I'm hearing is one of the major concerns here from councilors. And maybe because of history past that, the delay of the Upper York has been pushed to kind of where we are today. And from what I can understand of what's happening in this particular situation, in this corner here, is that this is a little bit different than what we've heard in the past, that there's a kind of a lofty promise that Upper York, this large project is going to be done in the next few years or such. So the reason I'm saying this is because there's a, what CEO Webster was talking about, that there's been an advisory panel that the town's been meeting regularly. The new conservative government has expedited many of the planning processes of removing much of the red tape, as you can see through Bill 109, and how quickly that bill has been passed. And that it's my understanding what I've heard, and as well as my belief is that there will be a decision on the Upper York fairly soon. Like I wouldn't say that there's a clear direction that it's going to get built, and even on time or whatnot, but there's going to be a decision either way on where we're going to be moving, at least to provide a clear status in the fall or end of this year. Why am I bringing this up is because one of the reasons why the tri-party agreement York region, it's a little bit conservative, is that the York region has a lower risk tolerance at this point. But because of the imminence of the Upper York decision on just a general direction, as indicated in the report and through discussion with town staff through General Manager Molinari could probably expand on this point, is that there will be a consideration of opening up the inline solution for additional capacity for this area in the imminent. So meaning that by the end of this year, through the tri-party agreement, we will get a good 85% of this corner completed with this application, what the owners are requesting here on Illumination Way. The remaining 17 units, it could come as early as the early 2023 because of the York Region's tri-party agreement wanted to open up that risk tolerance a little bit more. There is, from an engineering perspective, more capacity for additional services. But those just want to provide a little bit more backgrounds and points, and perhaps through you, Madam Mayor, we can ask Mike Molinari to add a little bit more context to the discussion with the region on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Mr. Molinari, are you with us? I'm not seeing your face, but I'm sure that you are part of our meeting this morning.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I am here. And yes, we have had some discussions with the region, although somewhat preliminary. But as Mr. Cook has indicated, there is some uncertainty with respect to the Upper York. But we do expect that there will be some sort of new information coming forward, maybe as early as this fall. There is some extra servicing allocation that's possible within the Sharon inline storage solution. The region has been quite conservative because at this point in time, it is a permanent solution, the inline solution, inline storage solution. If the Upper York does not come through, then that will be around as the permanent. However, if the Upper York is approved or alternative, the region has indicated we have had preliminary conversations with them that they would be looking to they would be open to accepting more risk if they know that there is a solution coming imminently, such as the Upper York. So plain and simple, at this point in time, it's difficult. There's no certainty at this point in time, but we know that if there is a decision made, the extra 15 units are likely to be able to be absorbed within the Upper York or within the inline storage solution that is coming on board. So at this point, again, we can't say with certainty, but there are other options to be able to support the application.
Thank you. Questions of Mr. Molinari? Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not necessarily to Mr. Molinari, but to perhaps the staff in general. I am sympathetic to the spot the applicant is in right now. I think, you know, you're paying the price for some unfortunate developers before you that, you know, didn't live up to their promises, and that's not right, that you be penalized for someone else's actions. So I am sympathetic to that. You know, Mr. Webster, you said earlier that we're lifting the H only for spots that we have allocation for, and so that's a good thing. But just for my own information, what would be, and I've asked this to Mr. Cook, Mr. Webster, or Mr. Molinari, what are the ramifications to the applicant if we do leave the H in place? What sort of impact does that have? Thank you.
Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
My read of it would be that they could not sell homes and they won't be able to complete any of the units on Illumination Way. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cook or Mr. Sinclair.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. They do require the development of the townhome to continue with the road. I think the other points I do want to raise is that if we don't lift the H and we continue with the process of our heading, the retirement home will get constructed. It will occupied with people with special needs care. And in the fall or in next year when we do allocation, we will be starting construction of taking up the road, setting up an infrastructure while people with memory care are living in those homes. Those are the ramifications. Thank you.
Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
I believe the proponent and owner wants to speak to that matter with their perspective as well. I don't know if that would be appropriate, Madam Mayor. I think council would have to give consent.
For me, all the information we can get, we're here to listen. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think the facts have been stated. There is a 203-unit apartment building that's about to be occupied. Its emergency services are coming on a temporary road. We made a decision, you know the pipes going in. We were going to get a road in that was proper and fitting for that application. That road is shared with a parking lot. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to not complete that community but for 3 blocks of townhouses that will, with almost certainty, come out of the inline storage or our group itself. If the town doesn't want to give us 15 units when we come back in 2 years and we're really ready, then we'll deal with it. But it is absolutely makes no sense not to have a public road with 2 intersections, get rid of an interim emergency access. I mean, I don't want to put the chief on the spot. Which would you rather have? They asked for the road to be 7.5 meters. We only did to do 6 meters. It must be an important road. So we're not telling you anything that hasn't been said, but I want to remind you, that building should not be subject to the chaos of building of these townhouses. In addition, the whole marketing of this seniors and evolution, it's all true. People are waiting in line, but now we're having a global crisis. Now, who knows what the market will do? But I want to put the road down. I want to get everything connected, and I want to do as much as I can before 203 suites are filled with people and their patio. Their patio faces the community, not the street, not Mount Albert. That nothing makes sense about withholding approval given that the inline storage will bring us up to all but 3 blocks, which cannot be built. If they sell very well, it'll still take us a year. It's a seasonal thing. We're trying to get ahead, but with good cause. We're going to build the sidewalk, we have to. You're now getting a crosswalk we've offered. If you can get the crosswalk, we'll make sure that it comes home. And there's been a notion about we're going to sell allocation. Wycliffe Thornridge will pay the town's half. You figure it out on a per unit basis. It may not be what you had hoped, but we'll do it. So now you got the sidewalk. Now you got the road going through. Now you got connection to the pathway. You know, now you have the fire access. Now you have the elimination on Leslie Street of a temporary road. There is so much that speaks volumes to getting this done, and that's why I opened with, what if we didn't buy those 7 houses? The original line was in various states of disrepair, including septic tanks and wells, but what if we didn't buy those 7 houses? Well, you wouldn't have Riviera. From a business point of view, I think they pay taxes. They sure pay a lot of rent. Must pay taxes. There's nothing about what's going on here makes sense from a business perspective, and the town is a business. All I could do is offer, Marlene and I spoke, we'll pay for that crosswalk, which is an integral part of the whole pitch here. But leaving it out for the sake of 15 units and 200 residences, which will occupy through the season when I can't pave and I can't plant trees, it makes no sense. I will leave it with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bensky. Councillor Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, the town's not a business. We're a level of government, and I think that's a mistake some people make, that we're a business. So I just want to correct that. We have to do what's right for the residents. So you bring up a lot of really good points, as well as the points I hear from my colleagues around the table. It is a difficult decision. I am wondering if there is some middle ground to be had here. I know there's the block that's down by Mount Albert Road that a number of us on council thought was a little too crowded. We can't get the garbage trucks in there, so it has to be private pickup and that. I'm wondering if that can be delayed to go ahead with the rest of the development, because if that is, I don't know how many units were there, if that could be delayed and going ahead with some of the other, if there's a middle ground there. I'm looking for a middle ground. Mr.
Bensky, go ahead.
Sorry, I guess I could do that myself, now that I see how to do it. I hear what you're saying. There's more to our decision. We're trying to clean up the corner. That corner with those units, with this troubled garbage problem, which will also look after itself, I believe. Just knowing what I know of the business for all the years that I've been doing it. But we can leave those units out, sure. Don't you want the intersect coming in, which is just adjacent to the walkway, which is just adjacent to the multi-use path, which is giving clear passage to people on that side of the road, to the traffic lights that are there, but you could get killed just trying to push the button. That's why the region asked us to fix it. We're cleaning all this up. Surely, all of these concerns of yours are outweighed by cleaning up them. We just moved hydro poles for our road widening. Guess what? The sidewalk's now straight. The other sidewalk, the region said, just put it here for now, we'll move it later. It's a nightmare for pedestrians, and you want your walkway. Why would we leave that entry corner on that side bare? Why wouldn't we complete it? And it's also immediately adjacent to the home itself. Yes, we have a multi-story building to the left. So as a matter of fact, we're doing the multi-use path. Are we not doing it all the way back to the first phase? I mean, you know, if there's a pound of flesh, you got it already. Okay, but I don't get it. Like, if you don't want us to build those units, but you'll let this go, sure. But are you sure that's the decision? That we're going to round the corner and have a pile of dust next to the building? Which are the gardens? Which are the gardens for those that are capable of going outside? And they're raised garden beds right next to those townhouses. The first thing we should build are those townhouses. I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's the furthest thing from our mind that would be left out in terms of cleaning up the corner. We're talking about 3 blocks on the open space between units that aren't going to get occupied till next summer. And if we do get to bring them on because of some miracle, which is actually in the inline storage. The inline storage has capacity for more. The region bought into it because they said, this is great. We'll use the extra capacity. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Molinari. There's capacity in it already. The region's thrilled about it. Somewhere, Wycliffe Thornridge is going to get 15 units, and we'll get this over with. But in answer to your direct question, that corner should be as cleaned up as possible. The trees should go in, the multi-use path should go in, and you're getting your walkway because the region's going to finally let us put it in, or let you put it in. There's just, can I stay at the microphone and not talk? Okay? I'm getting fired up.
I wasn't suggesting that it be left as a pile of dirt. I was, going back to my original comments, that entranceway would be nice to be green, right next to the apartment, next to the retirement home and their gardens. I was going back to those original comments. No one wants a pile of dirt at the entranceway, and that was not at all what I was suggesting.
Well, we can seed those units, and that'll fill the gap. We'll seed that corner. It'll be graded anyways. We'll hydro-seed it, and we'll come back whenever it's time to come back, if that helps, so that internally it's even better. I don't know, but when you're on an open space and you're on the furthest road from the 200 apartments, our solution is one solution. Yours is another. Happy to do it that way. We'll grade it, we'll hydro-seed it, and we'll leave those out. You know, I'm chasing myself here. Marlene's mumbling. Whatever she's saying is probably right. We'll do it. If that's what you want, we'll do it. But please, don't stop us. It just doesn't make sense not to put the road in. If we don't sell a house, nobody said, what if you don't sell a house? If we don't sell a house, it doesn't make sense to not put the road in and finish the parking lot, which is the other side of the road. Thank you.
Thank you. We've all taken a look at the building that's there now. I remember very clearly a couple of years ago where we were all very proud and excited that the building was coming in. We all know that there isn't enough housing for our seniors population, and to dig a little deeper with the building that's there, the amount of choices that people have, both financially and size-wise, is exactly what we wanted in East Gwillimbury. We needed it. I give credit on a regular basis to you. This is the first multi-story building that we have in East Gwillimbury. We have some that are a little short, but this is a multi-floor building in an area that's, in my mind, is going to talk to exactly what East Gwillimbury is, but Sharon in particular. You've worked very hard to make sure that corner is cleaned up, and some people at the council's table right now go past it every day. I'm past it several times in a day. Proud of what's going on. The last thing I want to see is that things stop. I envision, and this was earlier before we got to this point, I envision that it's a construction site, and that's it. That's what it looks like, is a construction site. We're all very proud of the ability to have such a magnificent looking building. The architecture's nice. The last thing I want to see is half-finished units at the back or at the side or whatever the case may be. I talk with the company that is at the farmer's market or at any opportunity that they can come out and talk to our community. I talk to them on a regular basis. The community is embracing it. We have people from East Gwillimbury in a variety of communities that are planning on selling their homes and making that their home base. They're elderly, they've lost spouses, they have physical disabilities, and they're moving in there. As well, I know that they have people that are coming from much further distance. So that again increases who we are, opens the door to some new members of the community in a multi-res. So for me, I want to find a solution. I think we have somewhat of a solution, but I'm not very happy with it either. I don't think anybody is. But we need to continue moving along with that. The last thing I want to see is that it's piles of dirt. When you talked earlier about the 2 blocks that were actually the fire breaks, it made perfect sense to me. I've seen it happen in other municipalities. When I was working for Newmarket, we did that on a regular basis for different reasons, but it opens the door without without a lot of difficulties with the rest of the project. I think it's an opportunity to talk about it, to see what it might look like at the end of the day, but I sure don't want to see a half-finished project on that corner. Drive by right now, and that's what we've got, is a half-finished project. And I certainly don't want to see that. I'm proud of what we're putting in. I would not be proud of leaving it the way it is. Are there other comments or questions? Or Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I did hear from our staff was that they're expecting that in early 2023, we might have more information and we might have greater certainty. For me, I guess I share York Region's lower risk tolerance, and I think that's a strange thing for me to say, but having seen the dirt piles that have had to remain in place for years in people's backyards, having to see the abandoned works trailer and equipment sitting at the intersection of Ladder Crescent and Countryman Way, I don't want to further that. And I've said that before, but perhaps I think part of the reason why we're struggling with this is that there isn't a right answer or a wrong answer. And for me, I would feel comfortable waiting until we had greater certainty as far as what kind of capacity is in the inline solution. Our staff have said that it could be as early as 2023. If it's sooner than that, I'm happy to lift the H as soon as we have confirmation about when we can expect that allocation. But I have seen and lived with the effects, and our community has seen and lived with the effects of things that have had to been start but not completed. And our development community has struggled with it as well. The applicant themselves have struggled with that. And I just don't want to see us continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
I just want to clarify that I think early 2023 is optimistic. Okay, I want it to be factual. The agreement, the tri-party agreement isn't signed. The infrastructure has to be built, it has to function. I would anticipate it taking longer than that. I think that is totally overly optimistic. I would anticipate something maybe in late 2023 would be more realistic.
Thank you. Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Roy DiClemente is correct. I think you've said it as well yourself, Madam Mayor. It's not an easy decision we have to make, and I see both sides, and I think for me though, Mr. Cook made an interesting comment, certainly about the memory care folks that are in this residence. For those who don't know, I volunteer with the Alzheimer's Society of York Region, and so I deal with folks that have dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's the one thing that they really need is routine and certainty in their living space, and so I worry about what impact this could have on them should we go down the road and have that construction there. So I am still conflicted about this, but that point, I just wanted to reiterate that point that Mr. Cook made, because I think it is very salient. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, please. If you would stand up, please.
I just want to relay on what Tom said about the inline storage being a year out. That's why the fire breaks in those 17 lots work perfectly, because we wouldn't be able to build them anyways, at least for another year. So with the inline storage coming, hopefully that there will be capacity, and I do believe 99% there will be. And so with those 3 blocks being left behind, it'll just flow in as our third phase in a year's time when we have that capacity and the fire breaks can be built. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'm not sure that we have something on the floor here yet. Madam Clerk? Did you?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are still, I believe, contemplating the original motion that's presented. Obviously, staff have identified some amendments to the report, so it would be as amended unless council wishes to make further revisions to that. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a reminder as well, CAO Webster did also advise of the crosswalk and a motion to present before the Regional Transportation Services Committee.
I too have had discussions at the region, and I don't think it's going to be difficult. I think that they are in support of it as well. It's one good checkbox I think we will have. Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Since we're back to the crosswalk, I didn't want to muddle the two issues. I think I would like to get more information from the region on how they do warrants, because Councillor Roy Clemente made a fantastic comment at the beginning of this whole discussion about that crosswalk's not going to meet a warrant if it's too dangerous for people to cross to begin with. And we have the same situation on Yonge Street and Holland Landing, where people are trying to get from the new bridge over to Anchor Park, and it doesn't meet warrants because people aren't crossing there because it's just too dangerous. So I would love for us to have a presentation from York Region so we can discuss what happens when a road is too dangerous to cross and will never meet the warrants because of that. But we know that if a crosswalk was put in, that our residents would use it. So I just wanted to kind of park that as an aside so that doesn't get lost, because Councillor Foster and I hear continuously about needing a crosswalk from the bridge to Anchor Park. Thanks.
I sit at the region on a regular basis. Haven't missed a meeting in the last 4 years, I think, and there are all kinds of crosswalks that get approved on some very, very busy streets because it's very busy and not safe for people to cross, and others that are not quite as busy. However, people are not being road-wise when it comes to crossing, and better to put it all in one place and have the lights, et cetera, that alert the drivers of the vehicles. I can tell you that I don't think there would be an issue in getting that. I may be wrong, but I've been there long enough to see the number of crosswalks that have gone in from every one of the 9 municipalities. Councillor Roy Clemente, go ahead, please.
Perhaps we can deal with that matter first then. So that's the low-hanging fruit. So I will give you a motion that council reiterates its support for the crosswalk on Mount Albert Road, and that we reiterate our request to York Region to consider its implementation, and request that you continue to advocate through your channels.
Yes, I'm in channels there, that's for sure.
Perhaps Madam Clerk can.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I did start a draft. Perhaps I can share that on the
do that.
screen and we can wordsmith that one if that's okay with council. Just bear with me for a moment. So it does have some preambles for council's consideration to talk about the rationale behind the request.
I'm happy to move that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Crone. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? And that's carried. I know even your subdivision, people who cross the road there from in behind in your new subdivision as well. So the sooner we get this together, the better. It is a busy road, a lot of truck traffic at any time, but more so now. The region, of course, won't be meeting until September, but we'll make sure that it's on the agenda as quickly as we can get it there. Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else, Councillor Roy DiClemente? I asked.
This time. I will point out, however, our agenda shows that we're simply receiving the staff report, but the report itself has 2 recommendations in it. So I'm assuming that we're considering the 2 recommendations of the report. I have not seen an amended version of the report, so I'm not sure, other than that one typo in the headline, is there anything else that's been amended?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe nothing else has been amended other than the typo that was indicated by planning staff. I can place the resolution before you as it is a report that's being approved as amended.
Please.
Or
For those that are not with us, perhaps I can read it out and then we'll go from there. Be it resolved that Development Services Planning Branch Report P 2022-27 dated July 19th, 2022 regarding the removal of a holding symbol for portions of 1420 Mount Albert Road and 19202 Leslie Street be received as amended, and that Council enact a bylaw to remove the holding H1 symbol for portions of 1420 Mount Albert Road and 19202 Leslie Street as attached in Appendix 4 to Development Services Planning Branch Report P 2022-27. Now, is there anything else that we should be aware of? Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
I'd like to separate the motion, and I'm happy to move receipt of the report.
Okay, so you want to separate the 2 pieces. Moved by Councillor Crothers, second by Councillor Roy DiClemente. Any questions on that? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that's carried. The second one is, be it resolved that Council enact a bylaw to remove the holding symbol for portions of 1420 Mount Albert Road and 19202 Leslie Street as attached in Appendix 4 to Development Services Planning Branch P 2022-27. Which in essence speaks to Mr. Bensky's discussion about continuing to move along. Yes.
Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering out loud here. We've had a lot of discussion, there's some questions. I think some of us are maybe feeling there might be more information to be provided. We have 2 members of council that are unfortunately absent today. Would it make sense to hold this particular vote until, can we push it to August, our next meeting in August? I just throw that out for consideration because I think we want to give the applicant all due process that we can and make sure that everyone on this side of the table is satisfied that we have all the available information. And I think there may be more information forthcoming about the inline solution. Perhaps we could dig a little deeper Just a suggestion, Madam Mayor.
No, I certainly understand that. I have some concerns that two people are away. It's very unfortunate. But the decisions that we make here today are reflective of our two people as well. And one's is, I won't say bad enough, but it's disappointing not to have one person here when there's a decision of this nature, let alone two. So I am quite comfortable in moving it forward. Mr. Bensky may not sleep for a little while, but I'm sure you'll find some way to get through it. But I think it will be more reflective of what our community feels and what our council feels. Are you prepared to make a motion to
Yeah,
that?
happy to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just for clarity, Councillor Scott, is your intention to have a deferral of this particular enactment of the bylaw?
Correct.
Okay.
To the, if we could move it to our August meeting?
To refer it to, and the date I'm not sure of.
17th?
I believe it is.
It's August 16th.
I think it's the 17th.
Bear with me for one moment. I'm just going to pull up the date, which is Tuesday, August 16th. That is a special council meeting reserved for one item, but perhaps we can kind of change
Have two
that.
items on it.
Yeah.
If we're coming together, then. Councillor Roy DiGiuseppe, go ahead, please.
I'm fine to support that motion as well. I think it gives all parties some time to, pun intended, dig a little deeper and see if we might be able to get, find those extra 15 units somewhere. Thank you.
That's your first warning.
And another 4 or 5 weeks may determine some changes that have been made as well, particularly in the summertime. There are moving parts weekly. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the deferral, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we do have Councillor Crone as well as Councillor
Thank you.
Roy
I see
DiGiuseppe.
that now. Yes. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried.
Just a reminder, there is a bylaw currently on this particular agenda, so we will withdraw the bylaw when we get closer to that.
Thank you. Okay. Just move down in our agenda here.
I believe we're in item 4. So the next item on the agenda here, Madam Mayor, is the requesting council for site plan approval for the Loblaw Distribution Center on Woodbine Avenue.
Thank you.
So staff brought a number of reports and memos to council since the late 2021. The reports, it's fairly comprehensive. It is a celebration of collaborative efforts here that involves council, interested parties, and internal staff, as well as outside agencies who worked very hard to expedite this item. So I will take this time to acknowledge everyone's effort and interest in this project. But overall, we believe that staff, from a staff perspective, that this development is an attractive design building. It does an excellent job with consulting with all the interested parties to set up monitoring programs to ensure the existing wells will not be impacted. They've done a great job with speaking with the Conservation Authority to address environmental issues such as the ecological offsetting policies and other wildlife concerns. And this development will bring around 1,000 jobs, new jobs to the town, and as well as help to be a catalyst for the employment land areas into the future for East Gwillimbury. So I'm happy to help answer any questions that may come up for this report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Questions? Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
I'm sure this has been asked and answered before, but I just wanted to confirm, how many trucks will be going in and out of this development on a daily or weekly basis?
Does that mean during construction or after completion?
After completion, thank you.
I'm not sure whether we have that answer or not. Mr. Webster, you have the answer.
I do not, Madam Mayor, but I'm sure there are traffic studies that either have been provided or will be provided, and Mr. Molinari's group would be the best to answer, as they would be the ones that review those and make sure volumes are adequate for and safe for the movements proposed. So I don't know if General Manager Molinari can assist.
Mr. Molinari?
Agree, Madam Mayor. I don't have exact numbers of trucks, but I can tell you there's a lot. And there's certainly enough trucks that would warrant, putting in an unwarranted traffic signal to support them. I do have, where I live, there's a distribution center just around the corner, and I can tell you that the trucks coming in and out are constant all day. And that's what you need in order to support a facility of that size. So I don't have the exact number, but it's a big number.
Okay, so while this development is going to bring much needed local jobs as well as tax dollars for our town, there's no denying that it will have a huge impact on our natural environment, including the increase in potential conflicts between vehicles and wildlife. And you can imagine with hundreds, I want to get a number in there, hundreds, thousands of more trucks on the road, this becomes a human safety issue too when people swerve or brake suddenly to avoid wildlife. We have an opportunity to help mitigate this risk with low-cost road ecology measures that can be incorporated while alterations to woodbine are taking place. Because this goes beyond this single development, I'd like to put forward a motion that we work with the region on road ecology measures on all regional roads as it is warranted, and also look at encompassing such measures in our own town plans, such as our transportation master plan. I've put forward a motion, maybe Madam Clerk can put that up. Whereas increased traffic volumes from development lead to a rise in vehicle-wildlife collisions, and whereas there are a variety of low-cost solutions to reduce wildlife road mortality, and whereas the LSRCA encourages municipalities to adopt policies for road ecology and municipal planning documents, be it resolved that Council requests that staff work with York Region to implement road ecology measures to reduce vehicle-wildlife collisions on town and regional roads where reconstruction and redesign permits, and that road ecology measures be integrated into the town's transportation master plan. So I'd like to put that out for consideration, as well as the other motions that are on this topic.
Thank you. Discussion? I guess I have a concern that we are missing two people again today, and I don't see this as being time sensitive. I think that it is very important that all members of council are here to absorb this and to understand what the request is about. It's bigger than just East Gwillimbury. It would be something that, moving forward at a regional level, I would expect that the other municipalities would be addressing it as well. And I think that what we should be doing is moving this to our August meeting or even our September meeting. It isn't going to happen overnight. The region doesn't go back until September. So that would be my suggestion, that better to have it at the region as a region issue, as opposed to a local issue. I mean, many times on the agenda, I see items from local members of council who it's moved forward to the region, and the region deals with it at that time.
I've spoken with General Manager Molinari, and we've spoken about the need for staff to work with regional staff on this, and we don't want to miss an opportunity when they're looking at the plans for Woodbine. The measures that we're looking at are very low cost and very simple when you are already reconstructing part of the road or widening the road. It's as simple as putting a tunnel through. with some fencing to direct wildlife that way. I don't want to miss the opportunity, and it's not something that we're looking at bringing to the regional council table. It's just something for staff to be talking with York Regional staff about. It's very low cost. We're not talking about one of those big flyover bridges or anything like that. I wouldn't want this to become so big that the small things aren't done. This is a very small request that we just work with them to do what can be done within budget, not the big ticket items. And the second part of the motion was that staff look at how we can incorporate that when we're revising our transportation master plan. So it's not a direct ask for specific things, but just that it's something that we put on their radar when they're looking at that plan, rather than wait until the plan's complete and it comes before us and trying to shoehorn it in there after the fact. So I've tried to keep the motion as general as possible, not asking for a specific mitigation measures, but just that staff work with the region where it is possible.
Thank you. I still feel that other members of council should, I think it has much more strength when our entire council is behind it. I get it. I see, in my travels, I see two of these large culverts. You could walk through them, you and I, standing up, and they are for our wildlife, and I certainly agree with that. But again, I think the strength in having all members of council, a unanimous decision, speaks a lot of volumes at the region level. This won't be happening this summer. It would be a fall item for sure. But in the meantime, if we can pass it at our next meeting, then it's in the region queue for the next meetings, wherever it would be appropriate.
As I was saying, it's not something to go to regional council. It's just something that our staff can speak with regional staff about. In talking with General Manager Molinari, it didn't seem like this had to be something that had to be brought up to that level. It was just to give them a little bit of direction to say, when you're making these plans, can you look at this? And it's not the culverts that are tall enough to walk through. It's the small ones for the turtles to cross and the smaller animals and that sort of thing.
I'm of a different mind than you. I have seen in the last couple of weeks a couple of dead deer on the side of the road in East Gwillimbury, and I'm thinking bigger. Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please, and then Councillor Crowe.
I think there's a great deal of merit to this idea. Procedurally, I think we want to try and deal with the site plan application that's before us. I'm mindful of the fact that in our June meeting, when I put forward a resolution requesting that we look at our allocation policy, it was treated as a notice of motion, which is now on our agenda for consideration. So perhaps as a way of solving this one, that we can make this a notice of motion. I would be happy to second the motion and put it onto a future agenda so that we can consider it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. There we go. Madam Clerk, go
Through you,
ahead,
Madam Mayor,
please.
just for clarity, the motion that was presented by Councillor Carruthers is going to be moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Roy DiClemente for inclusion onto a future council agenda.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, it's just going to happen. We don't need to vote on it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, I was just wondering, with respect to this, has the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority commented on the need for this? I'd be curious what I would hope, as stewards of our environment, that they would have a comment.
I can tell you that not in any recent time has there been discussion specifically about Woodbine. There has been over the years discussion from the Conservation Authority. As new roads go in, it becomes more of a it becomes something that is just part and parcel of the roads themselves. And keep in mind, they deal with a couple of regions as well as standalone municipalities. So perhaps what we could do is go back and see what their wording is and have a look at that one. Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
Yes, they speak to it on their website. They have a whole page on road ecology, as well as a fact sheet on integrating road ecology principles into municipal processes, and it has a number of recommendations for municipalities such as ours that we can incorporate. I've shared that with staff, so maybe when this comes back, we might be able to get a little more information from staff on how that might be incorporated. I had said in my motion the transportation master plan, but this also suggests secondary plans, so I will leave that up to staff. If they would like the motion reworded in any way, I'm happy to talk with them over the next month before it comes back.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Perhaps I can reword Councillor Crone's question. Well, no, I'm just, I guess what I'm trying to do is bring it back to the matter that's before us, and that is when the Conservation Authority circulated the plans to make comments, just as all interested parties were circulated those plans, was this matter raised as part of the Conservation Authority's comments? Through you, Madam Mayor, to staff.
And we'll bring that back at our next meeting and have a better understanding of where they are, and if they're not, then perhaps we work with them to reword theirs as well. Okay, we comfortable with that? Mr. Cook, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To answer Councillor Crone's questions, as reiterated by Councillor Roy DiClemente, is that the application was circulated to the Conservation Authority, and through the reporting from the consultant that there was no habitat, no turtles to be found currently on the site, and that there's a likelihood of low number of them to be inhabited in future in this area. So as such, the Conservation Authority did not provide any direct recommendation to install or to look at any crossing as suggested. However, the consultant has provided some recommendation in light of this interest, is to install of wildlife signages that we've seen in other municipalities, like the town of Aurora, have included with flashing light signages when on the peak seasons, if so that there are in future habitats to be found in the area, to alert drivers that there will be crossing in this on Woodbine. But at the moment, during the investigation as well as on-site field research, there are no habitats of turtles in this area here.
Good to know. Something you can share, or no? Madam Clerk?
Through Madam Mayor, I believe the moving and the seconding of the actual motion is still standing for report P22-24. I can bring it onto the screen if you
Thank
like.
you,
Yeah.
please. There we are. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crone. All those in favor?
May I have a recorded vote, please?
Oh, yes, you might.
Just bear with me for a moment. I'm just going to pull up the recorded vote sheet. Apologies, I have missed the mover and seconder while I was trying to grab the other.
Councillor Roy DiClemente and Councillor Crone.
Wonderful, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Roy DiClemente has requested for a recorded vote. Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Carruthers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Haxon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton and Councillor Persicini are absent today. Through you, Madam Mayor, that motion's been carried.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll move along.
Item I5.
believe you said.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to the last item there. Was there a discussion or mover on the recommendation as listed in the staff report? Recommendation number 1 to 5. I believe so maybe the clerk can provide some clarity.
Through you, Madam Mayor, through General Manager Cook, that motion's been carried unanimously with the current council for item I4. We're now proceeding to item I5.
Thank you. So number I5 is the last item from Development Services is a site plan application on 121 to 132 Bales Drive East. The proposed development will establish one-story office addition to an existing self-storage building, and on 122 Bales Drive East, as well as adding a two-story commercial self-storage facility on 132 Bales Drive East. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions of members of council. Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Cook. The report notes, I believe on page 7 of the report, that there's a community vegetable garden being placed along Davis and the east property line. However, on the landscape plan in Appendix 6, it looks like it's a little bit smaller and in the northwest corner of one of the office buildings. I'm just wondering if we can clarify that, because it sounds like a really great idea.
Mr. Cook? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, my mic was muted. Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, can I get the clarity on the question? Is that where is the proposed new vegetable garden, or what's the? Could you please clarify the question again?
Thank you. The report notes that there's a community vegetable garden, and it's to be located along Davis and the east property line. However, on the landscape plan in Appendix 6, it's not there. It's actually a much smaller space near the entrance in the northwest corner of the site. I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification, because it sounded like a nice enhancement to the site plan.
Right, I believe that's so the proposed new vegetable garden area is along Bales Drive. So the proposed along Davis Drive will simply just be a proposed new seeds and grass and planting bed is what's being proposed along Davis Drive there.
So it's not where it is on Appendix 6?
Right, yes, it is on where Appendix 6 is labeled as proposed new vegetable garden. That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor, just being mindful of the agenda and that we have 2 meetings this week, I was wondering, I believe at this point in time, the longer items have been dealt with. Given that we have 2 members of council absent, I think we will defer in camera today.
Okay.
And that being the case, it leaves us with about 4 or 5 items, and I would suggest maybe a short break right now, and maybe we could deal with it, and so maybe like a 10 or 15-minute break, and then resume. And I think that we would not require a lunch break session if that was the case.
Thank you. We would pick up at item J then. 15 minutes? So it's 12 o'clock, perhaps a quarter after the hour. And we'll come back and start with item J, the Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services. So with that, we'll take a break. Thank you very much. We are starting with item J at this point, and Mr. Molinari is waiting for us to meet with him, and so we will start our meeting at this point. Good morning, Mr. Molinari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are in the CIS section, and we have 4 items on today's agenda. The first is a report. It deals with the King Street Flexible Traffic Bollards pilot project follow-up. And essentially, the report provides an update on the traffic measures included in the pilot project, which was initiated in the summer of 2021 on King Street, west of Center Street in Mount Albert. The pilot installation included a set of rumble strips and 4 bollard locations. The traffic studies were conducted prior to the installation, after the installation, and again, approximately a year after the installation to determine the long-term impacts to traffic and speed. Unfortunately, very little speed reduction was observed following the installation, and in fact, speeds actually increased in the second year of the pilot. So as a result of the destructive impacts the bollards have to fasten them to the asphalt and the limited benefit that we've observed, we're recommending that the bollard pilot be discontinued in the future. However, as a next step, we're proposing to install what's referred to as urban shoulders on Colonel Whaling and Sharon on a pilot basis, basically determine if this treatment would be effective at reducing speeds. So this treatment includes line painting to reduce the width of the traveled lane, and there could be signage installed as well to share the road with cyclists and others. So subject to council approval, we'll report back with those results. And also in the future, some other things we're looking at, we're still in discussions with the region with regards to the use of camera radar boards. And council will recall those are items that whereby it works in close association with the Road Watch program, whereby camera boards would be set up. We would obtain license plate pictures of license plates of vehicles that were traveling at excessive speeds, and we'd work with YRP to issue a letter to those vehicle owners advising of the date and time and what we observed in terms of their speeding or et cetera on the roadway. And we feel that approach is excellent at targeting the groups of people that are causing us some concerns. Because in many cases on our roads, the traffic speeds are not excessive, but they're for 85% of the population. But there are a certain band of users that go excessively over the speed limit. We can target those people. We will be making some really great headway in terms of being able to control speeds that make our roads a little bit safer. So, Madam Mayor, with that, that's the essence of the report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, Mr. Molinari, are our results of our studies consistent with other municipalities? And I only ask that because there are many municipalities that are using the traffic bollards a lot. And I guess after that, will we be seeing a report coming sometime soon with other traffic measures that we can take with maybe some statistics on how they work? We have lots of spots in town that I'm sure I'm not the only councillor that hears about the driving. And I just, as much as the bollards, I guess, don't work the way we thought, I'd be interested to see some statistics on some other things. And again, are they consistent with other municipalities?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we don't have statistics on what others' results have been, but I can tell you that in general with traffic calming, unless you're proposing the use of speed humps, which have, obviously forces vehicles to slow down, a lot of the horizontal measures really provide a very small decrease in speed. And that's been consistent for years. And this is one of the speeding on roads is an issue that doesn't just plague East Gwillimbury. This is an issue across almost every municipality across in North America, if not any developed country in the world. So lots of jurisdictions are grappling with what's the best way to do this, and they've been doing that for a long time. And there really aren't a lot of great measures out there that target those speeders. We could certainly have a look and see, and we constantly are looking out to see what other measures are out there and give them a try. And this particular one with the bollards, it was because the town of Newmarket had installed them, and we thought that they were that they had some promise. But this is just one of those things where the results just aren't as good as what we would expect. Now, having said that, 85% of the motorists in the area are actually traveling at a fairly reasonable speed just as part of their normal course. It's really some of the outliers that we're really trying to target, and that's why I was suggesting that maybe we focus on the camera radar boards, which targets those specific motorists, and in partnership with YRP and our Road Watch program. We can target those people and have letters sent out to them, and maybe even, and depending on the severity of the speeding, maybe even a visit by the police in certain circumstances. So, while we have that in hand and we see if we can get that implemented, keeping our eyes open for other measures that may be helpful. That's something we're always doing.
Thank you. Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Mr. Molinari and your team for all your efforts to help calm traffic in East Gwillimbury. And I know certainly your staff may be tired of me. They may not want to pick up the phone when they see my number on their call display, but because I know I do call them quite a bit, but they are very responsive. And I think the rumble strips and some of the added stop signs on King Street has helped to some degree. So I don't think it was a waste. The bollards, it's regrettable that we didn't get the desired effect, but that's part of the job, isn't it? You try and you throw something against the wall and see what sticks, and if it doesn't, you move on. So I appreciate that. I'm just wondering if we've deemed, and maybe this is an art and science balance that we have with traffic calming, but if we've deemed that the bollards were not effective on King Street, maybe we should remove them sooner rather than later, because I know aesthetically some of the residents aren't overly fond of them, but perhaps they could be redeployed in other streets in East Gwillimbury to see if there is a different effect to what I think what Councillor Foster was getting to is that maybe there is a bit of experimentation that we could do. So just throw that out for consideration. But with regards to the radar cameras, and I think we need to make the distinction that they are very different than photo radar. They are two separate things. I am quite happy to pursue the radar cameras for our town and would offer up any street in Mount Albert, Ward 3, that we could to help assist. What do you need? Would a resolution from us, because I know you have to go through York Region to get some assistance with that, would a resolution from council today help you in negotiating with the region to get to move this forward? Because this is such a big issue for all of us. I know all of us at the table here deal with this, and I didn't realize that until I got elected how many traffic experts we have in town. Although, in fairness, before I was elected, I might have been one of them. So I think if we can help you move this ahead, I think it helps everyone. So Would a resolution help you in chatting with your friends at the region to push this forward?
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely, it certainly wouldn't hurt. We work very collaboratively with the region, and it's not that the region doesn't want to move forward. It was the region was concerned about, and this went right to the chief of police, Chief Jolliffe, a couple of years back, when they were introducing the automatic speed enforcement, i.e. photo radar, in the school zones. They were concerned that having another parallel system that was different may be confusing to residents, and that was the reason that the region had advised that they didn't wish for us to proceed with our pilot at the time. Some time has passed since those days, and maybe now the region would be willing to kind of get back on track with that original idea. But certainly a resolution from council wouldn't hurt. It basically just would assist us with being able to make the point that our council is behind this and would be supportive of moving forward. And that, like I said, that certainly wouldn't hurt. It could only help.
Okay, yeah, I think it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I've just put something into the chat for the clerk, that if you wanted to append that to the existing resolution, happy to push that along. But I know there are other questions here, so I don't want to. Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Roy DiClemente and then Councillor Crothers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Crone, yes, I do believe I recall a piece of correspondence to this body related to the speed limit on 9th Line. I believe we addressed that on your behalf.
Thank you.
What I wanted to comment on was I support the idea that traffic measures are not just a science, but there's a little bit of an art to it. I have seen areas where the bollards weren't effective, but at the same time, I've also entered into new communities where I was heading to a soccer field. I was from out of town, nice big wide road, and I wouldn't have known what the speed limit was except for the fact that there were bollards there in the center of the road reminding me that I was actually entering into a residential neighborhood because I wasn't from the area. And I think that may have helped, and so that I don't want to necessarily exclude bollards wholeheartedly from our tool chest. I think there's still there may still be some merit to them. I do support Councillor Crone's suggestion that we pursue the radar cameras a little bit further. One of the recommendations we often make to our residents who are contacting us is that there is the Road Watch program through YRP. I've often, myself included, heard back from residents who said, well, the cars are going so fast, I can't actually see their license plate, and I can't get it. And so there are some neighborhoods in East Gwillimbury who, the neighbors all know who is speeding. They have nicknames for those cars even, and no way of really, short of filing a road watch complaint, no way of really having that enforced. So I see this technology as another tool to support the efforts that YRP are trying to make on our behalf. And I'm happy to support the suggestion of having the urban shoulders implemented on Colonel Whaling. I think that's another way of looking at it, and certainly I've been very heavily engaged by the residents on that road as identifying that as an area of concern for our community and above and beyond the ones that we usually get. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, it's usually their neighbors. And that causes a whole other issue for us as well. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I also agree with looking at the camera radar. We have areas like Sand Road where I know Councillor Foster and I get a lot of calls about speeding along there. And it really is, it's too narrow to put in the bollards or the urban shoulders. So we don't have a lot of other tools in our tool chest. So something like the camera radar would be great. The other thing about the camera radar that I like is that it targets those who are speeding excessively, rather than the bollards or speed bumps. They target everyone. So even if you're already going slow, you're still trying to navigate around these things. But with the camera radar, those who are adhering to the speed limit can just carry on their merry way, and it just targets those that really do need targeting. Because I think you're right, it is the outliers that we need to deal with. So something that targets just them, I'd be very much in favor of. Happy to second Councillor Crone's motion if someone hasn't already.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? We have, sorry,
Through you, Madam Mayor,
go
I'm
ahead.
just going to provide the resolution before council for their consideration. So, Councillor Crone, I have included and incorporated the amendment to this as an extra one at the last clause.
Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Crothers. Not seeing any other questions. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
May I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
The radar boards, I think, are already being used. It's the radar camera technology. I think we want to make sure that we're clear about what we're requesting. And through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Molinari, I want to make sure that we give him whatever tools he needs to put into his tool chest.
For you, Madam Mayor, yes, it is the camera radar boards.
Okay, thank you.
When someone shows up at the door after they've, license plate has been found on this list, I think it makes more impact than anything else. And it works. People are not aware. Many times people are on their way home with other things on their mind after a long day's work or a variety of other issues. When the police stand at the door and say on a certain date at a certain time on a certain road, this is how fast you were going and we're aware of it, I think it shocks people back into paying attention to their daily habits on the roads. So, yeah, us included, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is Community Infrastructure Environmental Services Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our second report deals with Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks changes to the sanitary and stormwater environmental compliance approvals, which are also known as our ECAs. So the MECP is continuing to download review responsibility for what they refer to as low-risk infrastructure, which includes storm ponds, storm sanitary sewers, and pumping stations. The region has typically completed the review for the MECP, and now the review is being downloaded to the town. So this report proposes to adopt the same fee structure that the region had in place to ensure that the town properly recovers its costs going forward. So once the town has had sufficient time to work through a number of ECA approvals, and the process will be in a much better position to refine the fees as appropriate and to determine if additional resources are required. So, Madam Mayor, this is really just a report that is a bit of a stop-gap measure in order to make sure that the town's recovering the fees that it needs to in order to do the reviews, and we'll come back in the future to refine them based on our experience through the implementation process. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Molinari? I'm not seeing any at this time. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Foster, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Mr. Molinari, item number 3.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 3 is a report with regards to the petition for drainage works and provide an update with respect to that. So staff are pleased to report that petition for drainage works adjacent to the Holland River has been withdrawn. And we're working very closely with our appointed drainage superintendent, other neighboring municipalities, including King, Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Georgina, as well as the Holland Marsh Growers Association, as well as the impacted landowners to develop a comprehensive approach to maintain the dikes and protect the area from flooding. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Questions? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy D. Clemente, Councillor Crothers. All those in favor? And that's carried. Item number 4.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our last report is Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Green Stream, and it's the transfer payment agreement for East Gwillimbury water main upgrades. So this is really a good news story. Back in the fall of 2021, staff submitted a grant application to replace thin-walled water main on Yonge Street, as well as a number of asbestos cement water mains in Sharon, Morton Avenue, Mount Albert Road, Charles Street, Howard Street. And if council will recall, we had attempted to get grant funding for some of these areas many times over the years. And this time we were very successful in securing a fairly significant grant in the order of $3.67 million on a $5 million project that we would be receiving in terms of grant funding. So we just received notification of the agreement, and in order to receive those funds, we have to have the transfer payment agreement in place and executed within the next month or so. So we're just bringing this forward for council to consider and allow us to execute that agreement so that we can receive the funds and move forward with this very important project. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, first, I'm going to say congratulations. What a wonderful news story this is. Once again, we've been able to secure dollars that are badly needed in East Gwillimbury to look after our water main replacements and other infrastructure as well. So congratulations. Please pass that along to the staff that were involved with this. It makes a huge difference for us for sure. Now, questions? I'm not seeing anyone with questions. Could I have a mover to seconder? Councillor Foster, Councillor Roy DiClemente, all those in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Molinari, is there anything else that we should be aware of at this time regarding your department?
Nothing further this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that you might have for Mr. Molinari at this time? Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through you to Mr. Molinari, I just wanted to clarify a fact from our previous conversation about the Woodbine one. I believe, and maybe Mr. Molinari, you can confirm this, the traffic on generated from the Loblaws distribution center, it was going to be about, I think it was estimated to be about 150 trucks a day. Could you just confirm that? I think we didn't get a clear answer on that earlier, and I just thought I'd throw it to you to nail that down.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure that was the number.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I've got some preliminary numbers. There's about it's over 100 trips per day. At the that's for the peak hour. So it'll be several hundred trucks per day in and out of that facility. And the region has, as part of their approval, is going to be requiring left turn lanes, northbound left turn lanes, and coming out of the site acceleration lanes in order to get that traffic up to speed, and also to not disrupt the flow of traffic on Woodbine Avenue to make those intersections safe. So there are improvements that are being put in place along with the signals in order to improve safety along Woodbine Avenue and accommodate that truck traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up, I know we're getting some, because of this development, we're getting other interested parties looking at us now. Do you foresee a time in the near future that we will have to, or the region will have to, expand the Woodbine to accommodate all the future demands? I say that in hopes that we get our infrastructure right before the development comes. Just curious about your opinion on that. Through you,
Madam Mayor. Woodbine is is a high-speed road. It's nowhere near its capacity at this point in time. And really, by putting in proper turn lanes and allowing vehicles to be able to turn without impeding the flow of traffic, you're doing two things. You're reducing the potential for rear-end collisions because those left-turning vehicles are in their own lane, and other vehicles are able to travel past, which allows for improved safety, but it also allows for more throughput along that roadway. So I wouldn't, like I said, Woodbine is nowhere near its capacity in terms of its ability to carry traffic. The real issue that I think we need to be mindful of and make sure that we're doing a good job of is making sure that we get proper turn lanes in the areas where they need to be so that we're not impeding the flow of traffic. And in this particular case, they've done that at both the entrances to the facility and also on the way out of the facility for the large trucks. Providing that acceleration lane also reduces the potential for having other vehicles having to slow down to accommodate the somewhat slower moving vehicles, i.e. the trucks.
Thank you. No other questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Councillor
Sorry, Madam Mayor,
Connecty.
I didn't vote because I didn't know what we were voting on.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what
Sorry,
the motion
just,
was.
I'm sorry, I was moving faster than my pen was in that to receive the information that we just received from Mr. Molinari.
So the verbal update.
The verbal
from Mr.
update, thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that we had captured that. I think that was very important to have in our minutes. So. Great, okay. We're on to item K, and that's Community Parks, Recreation, and Culture with our Mr. Carmison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, staff have prepared a memo today informing Council of a permission to enter an access agreement. This access is required through Anchor Park for a private well service company to rehabilitate a private well service for a resident of Holland Landing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that Council may have related to the informative memo.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Not a question as much as just a bit of a comment. So I've dealt with the residents at this address. As much as she is very frustrated at this point, it's been a while since the water issue started. She's had nothing but good things to say about our staff that she has been dealing with on an ongoing basis to get this done. I kind of find this interesting. It's a permission to enter, when really all it is a permission to cross town lands. There's probably about 20 or 25 feet to go from the driveway into Anchor Park into their backyard. This apparently has been going on, I think she's had water issues now for close to a year. I'm not sure how long it's been in the town hands. I don't think that terribly long, but there may have been some phone calls before that that may have led her down the wrong road to getting this done. I would just ask that water being a necessity of life, that we expedite this as much as we can, and I know that it's taken some time up to now, but I understand both sides of the issue. I do understand that there is still a charge that could be levied against the town or against the resident, and I'm not sure whether that's an administration charge or exactly what it is to run this through. So, but I do know from conversations today that we have some staff working on that and to whether it can be not used in this issue or reduced by a lot, I hope, in this issue. So I just ask that we move this one forward with some swiftness and get it done. She needs to get her water looked after.
Thank you very much. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Solicitor Sinclair commented on this, as it could be an issue, and apparently the fee is $1,700. It's per one of our bylaws, and we're starting to find out sometimes the bylaws miss the one-offs. I talked to Councillor Foster. This is certainly not a regular occurrence. This is a one-off here, and I haven't seen it in my time here, and Councillor Foster commented it certainly was an exception. Solicitor Sinclair seemed to indicate that if we were to reduce the 1,700, since it's a bylaw, we would have to get council direction. And, you know, if that's the case, I was suggesting that possibly a lower fee, like a $500 fee, might be more appropriate. At least it would be a concession. So maybe council could provide direction, and then that way staff are not having to override the bylaw. We'll follow it up at our senior management follow-up tomorrow with Treasurer Marshall and figure out how to best enact that.
Councillor Foster, go ahead.
I would certainly bring something along those lines forward. You know, I don't want to spend $500 of their money, so I would suggest that we do it as low as we possibly can. I mean, this $500 certainly doesn't sound unreasonable. I would look forward to our Mr. Marshall's thoughts and Mr. Sinclair's thoughts. So if I can bring something forward, I'm not sure how we want to word that one, Madam Clerk, but to do it for the lowest fee possible and get this underway.
Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A little surprised to hear that there's any fee going to be levied simply because the memorandum to us says that there are no financial implications for the town. So if we were going to be collecting money, then I would expect that that fee would be registered here and that the applicant or the proponent would be paying $1,500 or $1,700 or whatever that amount is. So if there's no financial implications for the town, then it would seem to me that there is no fee being levied. However, if that's not the case, then I would be happy to support Councillor Foster's resolution that whatever provisions of any bylaw that may exist be waived at this time.
Mr. Webster?
My only comment, Madam Mayor, to that would be that anytime a lawyer gets involved, there will be a fee, right? We know that. And so I think that's part of it, is that our solicitor was involved for some sort of right to enter agreement. So my suggestion would be maybe we should ask Mr. Sinclair how many hours he actually spent on the file, and to Councillor, so that it's strictly a cost recovery of the solicitor or staff's expense up to that point. So
More of a pay for
and the
per
$500
service.
came from Mr. Sinclair. He was trying to be helpful, and he sort of said that he thought the $1,700 might seem excessive, and that something in the magnitude of $500 could be a lot more palatable.
Thank you. That's helpful. Let's do that. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Foster, go ahead. Well, okay, that it be moved to $500?
Or to
Yeah, whatever the fee.
Madam Mayor, I would
Yeah.
suggest you just say to recover staff costs in an
Thank you.
appropriate manner.
Okay, good. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crothers. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, are there any other items at this time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, nothing further for Community Parks, Recreation and Culture. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move along to Corporate Services with General Manager Valchek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item on the agenda today. It's a fairly routine matter in relation to election processes. I think the report is pretty self-explanatory. I just will add a couple of very brief additional comments. As the report indicates, our clerk has been working with the other municipalities in York Region on this. It's our understanding that all of the other municipalities have passed similar bylaws, so we look forward to council setting this up for East Gwillimbury as well. And I just wanted to comment that it's a pretty efficient process to work with the other municipalities on an initiative like this. The process itself my understanding is, has cost about $10,000, which includes all the advertising, legals, et cetera, in order to put this in place. And then that gets divided nine ways so that all the municipalities benefit from it. So we get to do this very efficiently by working collaboratively with our other municipal partners in York Region. So if there's any other detailed questions, Madam Mayor, the clerk is well prepared to address them for you.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor? And that's carried. Might there be anything else, Mr. Velchik, at this time?
Nothing further. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll move along to Finance with General Manager Marshall. Indicated that there are no items on the agenda at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam.
Thank you. Anything you would like to brief us on, regardless of that notition?
I have nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We will move along to Emergency and Community Services with our Chief Mackenzie.
Yes, Your Honor, nothing on the agenda, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the Chief? Seeing none, we will move along to Legal Services with General Manager Sinclair.
Believe there.
Madam Mayor, I believe there was a notation from Solicitor Sinclair that he was dealing with a family matter and was going to be potentially absent with notice for portions of this. So if there's any legal matters that require follow-up, I'll ask council to table them, and we'll definitely deal with them.
Thank you.
And report back at our next meeting.
I'm not seeing any hands at this time. We will move along to correspondence for consideration. We have one item. And Madam Clerk,
Through Madam Mayor, this is simply another street party request by the applicant. They wish to hold a street party on September 17th from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. I believe there is a bylaw prepared for the closure of that particular street.
thank you very much. It's nice to see that communities are getting together again. I look at this as a wonderful opportunity of healing in our community and meeting new neighbors that perhaps have moved in during the pandemic. So whatever we can do in my mind to make it easy for them to get together and enjoy an evening, I think we should do so. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Could I have a motion to move into closed session about a...
Are we going to, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I may.
Yes.
The personnel matter that we were proposing to deal with, the system is working quite well. It's just I'm not working quite well today. I think would be best if we had all 7 members in attendance, and I would propose, we have direction to keep the August meeting pared down, and rightly so. But I believe AMO is occurring at that time. That's an annual meeting. At this point, we have the help tender, which is a very important matter to deal with. We added on today the consideration of the Sharon Corners development. And there was one broadband matter that is pending that's of importance. So those are 3 items. I think we've proven that we can deal with these meetings virtually. So those that aren't going to be at AMO can hopefully dial in. So that'll be helpful. And I would propose that the in-camera session for the personnel matter be shifted to the August date.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to that effect, if council would wish to pass a deferral, to defer the closed meeting of council to August 16th, 2022 special council meeting, that would alleviate any type of discussion to deal with closed matter today.
Certainly. Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Was there an issue with moving it to this Thursday's meeting?
The only issue I have is without contacting the one counselor to find their whereabouts and to determine if the other counselor apparently is ill. So there was a few moving pieces, so
Okay.
I thought we'd land on the 16th of August with some certainty.
As long as it's not time sensitive, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, could I have?
Oh, yeah.
Could I have
Sorry,
a mover
through-
and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? That's carried. And a motion to rise and report at, no, sorry. Pardon me. Thank you. R, reports. There are no reports. S, resolutions. Resolution to impose limitations on the purchase of goods that can easily be traced to have originated from Russia in support of the town of Georgina's resolution, whereas the community of Ukraine has experienced a premeditated and unprovoked invasion by Russia, and whereas Canada imports hundreds of millions of dollars worth of goods from Russia each year, and whereas negative financial impacts upon a country can be used as a means to further deter conflict, and be it therefore resolved that the town of East Gwillimbury unequivocally denounces Russia's unjustifiable war against Ukraine, and that the town of East Gwillimbury supports the sanctions which the federal government of Canada has thus far imposed on Russia, and that effective immediately and until the sanctions imposed upon Russia by the federal government are lifted, the town of East Gwillimbury will not purchase any products, e.g. plywood, fertilizer, steel, furniture, or machinery which can easily be traced to have originated in Russia, and that insists that any future contracts for services for the town of East Gwillimbury abide by these same limitations within our municipality, and that upon confirmation of sanctions being placed upon Belarus by federal government, the town of East Gwillimbury apply these limitations upon goods from the country as well. I guess my one question is how do we make sure that we have lived with these sanctions?
So through you, Madam Mayor, maybe I can tackle that one.
Thank you.
The resolution refers to easily traced. So we're going to do the best we can to make sure that we're not doing that, but there could be some instances where it could be like fourth hand purchase from Russia that we can't track. But what we're going to do is include in our contracts a clause saying that we're going to not accept goods or services from Russia, and we're going to be trying to track that as best as we can. We can't guarantee that we're going to get it 100%, but we're going to try as best as we can.
Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DiClemente, all in favor? That's carried. We are at bylaws, and we have, yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a reminder that bylaw 2022-056, which is in relation to the Sharon corners, is being deferred to August 16th.
So we'll pull that one out. That's number 3, correct?
That's correct, number 3.
Pull out number 3, and we will move the remaining. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Foster? Councillor Crone? All those in favor? That's carried. And the one that we have removed, we will just leave it removed at this point?
It's being deferred to August 16th. Yeah.
Just want to make sure that everyone understood that. We are now at a notice of motion moved by Councillor Roy DiClemente and seconded by Councillor Crone regarding updates to the town's service allocation policy. This is notice of motion presented at the June 21st, 2022 council meeting. Be it resolved that council directs staff to update the town's servicing allocation policy to ensure appropriate phasing is implemented and that development applications are considered when they include an implementable servicing strategy. Any discussion? Moved by Councillor Roy DiClemente and seconded by Councillor Crone. I'm not seeing any questions. All those in favor? And that's carried. And at this time, I have no other business on my list unless someone else does. I'm not seeing any. We will move along to the confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-068 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on July 19th, 2022 be taken as read and acted and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DiClemente. All in favor? And that's carried. And an adjournment today at 1:01. Moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, staff. We had a lot of detail in this meeting today. I appreciate all the work that is done in advance for these meetings. It's always nice to have all the information in front of us, and we can rely on that with our staff. So thank you very much. With that, have a great day.